Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. This is Mrs. G. In this video, we are going to be looking at the 2015 Social Studies CSEC Multiple Choice Past Paper. Let's get to it. Alright guys, here we go. Just so you know, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to write them down below. You can also send me messages or past paper questions that you have on Instagram at Natken Educational Services, just the same. So let's begin. Number 1. Lloyd invited his mother to live with him, his wife, and 2 sons. The new family structure would be termed, so you would have Lloyd as well as his mother plus children. So that would have been an extended family. So for number 1, your answer would have been letter B. Number 2, which of the following are aspects of the socialization process? We have religious teaching, reproduction, and recreational activity. Reproduction in itself is not a socialization process. That is just the process of having or getting a child, so that would not be socialization. But religious teaching and recreational activity, those would have been a part of the socialization process, so that would have been 1 and 3. So your answer for number 2 would have been letter B. Number 3, which of the following is not a typical feature of low-income families in the Caribbean? So low-income families means that you have, just like it says, a limited amount of money, a limited amount of income. So which of these is not a typical feature? So A, they are usually self-sufficient. Self-sufficiency means that you are able to take care of all of your financial needs, well, all of your needs in general. So this is looking like the answer, but we can still look through the others. B, their homes lack educational facilities. C, they often have a large number of children. D, the children are often economic contributors to the household. So it is saying which of the following is not a typical feature. That would have been A, they are usually self-sufficient. Number 4, Maxine Lewis lives with her unmarried mother and father. The union between her parents can best be described as, so Maxine is living with unmarried mother and father, so that makes it a common law relationship between the parents. So for number 4, the answer would have been letter C. Number 5, which of the following is least likely to be a concern for adolescents in the family? So it says least likely. So A, coping with their emotional problems. B, communicating with adults in the home. C, providing financial support for the home. And D, balancing academic and social activities. So the one that is least likely their concern would have been providing financial support for the home. So for number 5, your answer would have been letter C. Number 6, in the Caribbean, fathers have accepted more responsibility for child rearing mainly because of. So when you see that there is a word in the question that is in bold, it means that you need to pay specific attention to that word. So this has mainly, which would suggest that there can be more than one, but you're looking for the one that is most relevant to the specific question. Just like this question, this one says best explains, so it is pretty much meaning the same thing. Alright, so for this one, fathers have accepted more responsibility for child rearing, mainly because of A, early death of mothers, B, increase in the divorce rate, C, high unemployment rate of fathers, or D, increase in the number of working mothers. So for number 6, your answer would have been letter D, which is an increase in the number of working mothers. Number 7, which of the following best explains the promotion of family planning in the Caribbean? A, to ensure a balance in numbers between males and females. B, to teach parents to supervise the activities of their children. C, to to allow persons to have sexual relationships with chosen partners, or D, to give parents control over the number and spacing of their children. So what the question means is, when it says which of the following best explains the promotion of family planning, it is saying which one of these options would best explain why the government is pushing family planning or promoting family planning or trying to get persons to practice family planning in the Caribbean. So that answer would have been letter D, which is to give parents control over the number and spacing of their children. Number 8, which of the following would undermine the authority of parents in the home? A, setting and enforcing clear rules of conduct. B, inconsistency in rewarding and punishing children. C, giving cash allowances to adolescent family members. D, allowing children to participate in family decision making. So when it asks which one would cause undermining of authority, that means which one would cause the parents to basically lose their power or their authority to be dwindled. So your answer for that one would have been letter B, which is inconsistency in rewarding and punishing children. Number 9, unemployment and hard economic conditions have forced both parents in some Caribbean families to migrate, leaving an elder son or daughter to care for the younger brothers and sisters. Which of the following problems is least likely to affect the younger brothers and sisters? A, low achievement at school. B, breakdown in discipline in the home. C, lack of adult role models in the home. Or D, lack of opportunity for peer group interaction. Your answer for that would have been letter D. They would have several opportunities for peer group interaction, especially since they are being left with an elder son or daughter. Number 10, the type of care associated with the elderly is described as. So we have seen a question like this one before in the 2017 past paper, where this same question was asked. If you have not watched that video yet, I will leave a link for you at the top of this screen. Ensure that you check it out. So the answer for this one, once it is associating elderly, it would have been geriatric. So senescence is really a period in the age of human beings. Pediatric refers to children, and it would not have been old folks. So for number 10, your answer would have been letter A. Number 11, Caribbean countries have improved the rights of children born out of wedlock by A, building more foster homes for abandoned children. B, providing incentives for their parents to get married. C, passing laws to allow them to qualify for inheritance. D, passing laws to control sexual relations outside of marriage. So the answer for this one would have been letter C. There was a time when once a child was born out of wedlock, then they would not be able to have anything relating to the father, or relating to the father. So that is why your answer is letter C. Now they have passed laws that allow children to access or qualify inheritance even if they were born outside of wedlock. Number 12, identify the order in which the ancestors of Caribbean people arrived in the region. So there's Amerindians, East Indians, Europeans, and Africans. So from history, you know that the Amerindians were in the Caribbean first. Then the Europeans came to the Caribbean and claimed that they discovered the Caribbean, even though other persons were living here already, but that's another story. After the Europeans came, they then got Africans to work in the Caribbean. After the African, they got the indentured laborers, who were the East Indians. So you would have the Amerindians first. You're looking for an option that has 1 at the front, Amerindians first. Then you have the Europeans who came after. So it's 1, then 3. So using the process of elimination, you have letter A and letter B left, which both have 1, then 3. Then you have the Africans who came after. So it's 1, 3, then 4, and then 2, the East Indians that came after. So your answer for number 12 would have been letter A. Number 13. Which of the following best characterizes a primary group? Primary groups are usually very small and they interact well with each other or interact on a closer level with each other. So A, large in size would have been out. B, face-to-face interaction. C, a common name or title. D, shared belief and norms. So notice that the question highlights best characterizes a primary group. So your answer for that would have been letter B, which is face-to-face interaction. Number 14. Ralph is the leader of his school's choir. He makes all group decisions without consulting his other group members. What type of leader is Ralph? So we saw this question as well on the 2019 past paper. Again, if you have not seen that paper, ensure that you click on the link that I'm about to place above so that you can get a chance to go through that paper as well. So Ralph, he's making all of the decisions. The type of leader that Ralph is, the options are democratic, participative, authoritarian, or laissez-faire. So Ralph would have been an authoritarian leader, so your answer for number 14 would have been letter C. Number 15. Which of the following is the best example of a compromise? So compromise is when you give up something to get something else. You're basically working together as a team. So A, workers arguing in a cafeteria line. B, two students involved in a writing contest. C, a football team working together to win a match. D, a husband promising to clean the house while his wife does the cooking. So this one would have been your compromise. So for number 15, your answer would have been letter D. Number 16. Which of the following are characteristics of a strong leader? A, willing to make decisions. B, always keeps a serious face, always lenient with members, or allows members to make their own decisions. So that would have been A for a strong leader. So regardless of how difficult it is, a strong leader will be willing to make decisions. So 16 would have been letter A. Number 17. Democratic control and open membership are features of a sole trader, street gang, private company, or a cooperative society. So 17, we saw this question before as well. 17 would have been letter D, which is a cooperative society. Number 18, Samuel broke one of the school rules. He was given 250 lines to write. The above is an example of a right, a norm, a ritual, or a sanction. So it would have been sanction. Sanction is basically a punishment that Samuel would be getting for breaking the school rules. So your answer for number 18 would have been letter D. Number 19. In which of the following countries is proportional representation practiced? Your answer for number 19 would have been A, which is Guyana. Number 20. The plan proposed by political parties for managing a country is published in a document called a pamphlet, manifesto, magazine, or constitution. So yes, it is called a manifesto. You may hear on the news where politicians are speaking about the manifesto that they have created for the country. That is talking about the plans that they are publishing in order to move forward with the country. Number 21. A political campaign is a method used by parties to give voice to the people, encourage people to vote, give donations to the needy, or get funding from the public. So the political campaigns is really used to encourage people to vote. So for number 21, your answer would have been letter B. Number 22. Which of the following is not normally dealt with by family courts in the Caribbean? So there's divorce, child custody, probate of wills, and alimony payments. So divorce is at the family court, child custody is also at the family court, alimony payment is also at the family courts. Probate of wills, even though a lot of times it may involve family members, it does not always involve family members. It is more dealing with your estate. So your answer for number 22 would have been letter C, which is probate of wills. Number 23. In many Caribbean countries, the Queen of England is the head of state. Such countries may be described as republics, monarchies, dictatorships, or democracies. That is going to be B, monarchies, and Jamaica is an example of that. Number 24. The main function of a prosecutor in the judicial system is to issue a summons to a witness, provide counsel for the defendant, present arguments against the defendant, or determine the verdict at the end of the trial. So the witness is the person who would have seen something and they would go to the court to tell what they saw. So that is what witness here means. Provide counsel for the defendant. The defendant is the person who has been accused of doing something and then they were brought to court. And present arguments against the defendant would have been your answer. That's the prosecutor. So your answer for number 24 would have been letter C. Number 25. The role of the opposition in Parliament can best be described as A. Inciting civil disobedience and mass protest, B. Opposing policies which the ruling party proposes, C. Voting in favor of all bills debated in Parliament, or D. Analyzing government's policies and presenting alternatives. So yes, the role, notice it says the role that best describes them, what they are actually supposed to be doing, is to analyze the government's policies and then they present alternatives. So your answer for number 25 would have been letter D. 26. A national budget has a deficit when expenditure is. So deficit means that you have less. Expenditure is what you are actually spending or giving out, and your revenue is what you are receiving. So a national budget has a deficit when expenditure, which is what you're spending, is equal to revenue, or it is less than the revenue, greater than the revenue, or sufficient to finance development. So your answer for number 26 would have been letter C. If what you are spending, that's your expenditure, is greater than what you're receiving, then you would end up with a deficit. So your answer for 26 would have been letter C. If the question had asked you about a surplus, it would mean that you have extra, so it would have been the other way around. Number 27. Which of the following is a non-taxable source of government revenue? That means what the government can receive but they cannot place any tax on. So the options are export earnings, patents and licenses, grants from donor agencies, or earnings on goods and services. So that would have been grants from donor agencies. They are unable to tax those. So for number 27, your answer would have been letter C. Number 28. A country's constitution may be changed by a referendum, national elections, national registration, or local government elections. So local government elections is when you are choosing a representative for your specific area. National registration is just when you're registering as a citizen. National elections is when you are choosing your prime minister or your other representatives. Referendum is what is required for a country's constitution to be changed. So for 28, your answer is letter A. 29. The constitutions of Commonwealth Caribbean countries guarantee citizens freedom of conscience, expression, assembly, and movement. These freedoms are usually referred to as citizenship, civic duties, human rights, or independence. These are your basic human rights. So for 29, your answer would have been letter C. Number 30. Which of the following is least likely to be affected by overpopulation in a country? A. Pattern of land use. B. Provision of social services. C. Participation in religious activities. D. Universal access to secondary education. So the question is asking which of those is least likely to be affected by overpopulation in a country. So in other words, if you have a country that is overpopulated, which of these would it not affect so much? So it would certainly affect the pattern of land use, that is how the land is utilized by the persons. They're going to build houses, they're going to need to build businesses, etc. So it would affect the pattern of land use. Provision of social services, that would be like healthcare services, things that you do at the tax office, things like that. So overpopulation would certainly affect that as well. Participation in religious activities, that would not be affected by overpopulation in a country. Universal access to secondary education would be affected as well, as you would end up with overcrowding in schools, etc. So your answer for number 30 would have been letter C, which is participation in religious activities. We are going to stop here for now. Please ensure that you like the video. If you would like us to continue with the video, ensure that you leave a comment below, and also ensure that you subscribe to the channel. It is always a pleasure to assist you. We need to know if you need to see more videos like this. Just ensure that you leave a comment. If you have questions that you need to be answered, feel free to also send them in a DM at Natken Educational Services on Instagram. Thank you so much for watching. It is always a pleasure to assist you.